Alright, good evening folks, it's Enforcer Matt and welcome back to another Short War Summary. And today we have some pretty big news about some Ukrainian drone attacks on Russia, some very big ones. It just happened about 50 minutes ago, so we're right on top of that news coverage. And also we're receiving some more information about some news about Kadyrov. So let's go ahead and jump right into our first news story of the day, which is from Visegrad 24, and it says Ukrainian drones are striking targets in Feodosia, Crimea, and it looks like some form of energy infrastructure was hit. So let's take a look here and see what is going on. And as you can see, there is the drone attack. There is some large explosion in the distance. It looks like some electrical fires or something starting out there in the distance. So I would have to agree with what the post says here, that it was likely some form of energy infrastructure, and that is good to see because once again, these drone attacks are becoming very routine inside of Crimea by the Ukrainians, and once again, it's putting fear into the Russians that this will soon be taken, which I'm very confident that it will eventually. And moving on to our next post here, we have one from Visegrad 24 again. Not only did Ukraine launch a drone attack in Crimea, they also struck targets in Bryansk, Russia again as well, and it says Russia is getting hit by Ukrainian drones on a daily basis now. And that certainly does seem to be the case. And taking a look at this footage here, we can see the explosion in the distance, and it is a nice and big one. Ukraine is increasing the yield on those drones, and as we see, it's inflicting a lot more damage than before, which is also another very good thing for Ukraine. And moving on here to our next post, we've learned some news about a businessman or associate of Prigozhin, the late Prigozhin. It says here, businessman Vasily Boskov, former business partner of Yevgeny Prigozhin, was arrested in Bulgaria, and Boskov was detained at the airport after returning from Dubai, and according to the businessman, he returned to Bulgaria voluntarily to quote-unquote clear his name in court. And about 20 charges have been filed against Boskov in Bulgaria, including a leadership of an organized criminal group, murder, and extortion. So pretty serious charges there. And if the guy's associated with Prigozhin, I wouldn't put those charges past him. It says, in addition, he kept in touch with Prigozhin until his death. And this post right here makes me wonder if this is directly connected to what happened with Prigozhin and also Wagner, since this guy was in touch with Prigozhin up until his death, and a former business partner of Prigozhin. And this could be on purpose. This could be something helped orchestrate by Putin, perhaps, to put this guy away. Or it could simply be that the charges are what they say they are, and the guy might be guilty. So, whatever it is, this guy, former business associate of Prigozhin, he is being charged and arrested. So, moving on here, after hearing that bombshell of news, we learned that Kadyrov is back. This guy right here, the ham and cheddar man, standing next to Putin, which is his good pal for now at least. That says here that Kadyrov is ready to die for Putin. He wrote on his Telegram channel today, and Kadyrov might also die if a more loyal servant to Putin turns up. And once again, we're seeing here that Kadyrov must have been spooked by the fact that Prigozhin did get killed by this bad guy right here. And he is trying to warm right back up to Putin by saying he's willing to die for Putin. How much better can you get than that? It says here that this was his answer to some media thinking he might be next after Prigozhin. And Kadyrov wrote on his Telegram channel that today I was amused by the musings of immature political scientists who are mad at Russia and foreign media that prophesy my demise in the near future. So for Kadyrov to actually be entertaining that and talking about it, he clearly put some credibility into it, and he knows it's not off the table for this guy to knock him off. Because, of course, this guy does not take any chances when it comes to traitors and things like that. And with Kadyrov being sort of up there with Prigozhin when it comes to status and also publicity, this guy could be next. So I think that's the reason why we're seeing that statement. And once again, this is motivated out of fear on Kadyrov's part. And moving on to our next post here, we have one from the Kyiv Post, and we're learning some more news about the Crimean Bridge, or the Kerch Bridge, as we call it. It says Russians are installing barges south of the Crimean Bridge to create a defense strip against naval drones, and this is evidenced by photos published by Radio Liberty via Planet Labs. And we can see here in these photos, there are some ships lined up against the bridge here. And what we are being told is these have been partially submerged, these barges have, to protect this bridge. I'm not sure if that is entirely true, but that is the current official story at the moment. We see these ships here apparently supposed to serve as some kind of barrier against Ukrainian drones. And I'm not sure if that's actually going to work or not. The Russians are trying pretty much everything in the book at this point to try to make sure the bridge is protected. But right now, this is their attempt, and we'll have to wait and see if it actually works. But that's that piece of news, so let's go ahead and jump right into our next piece of news here, which is from Nexta. It says, in Nizhny Novgorod, teachers wanted to dress up first graders in military uniforms, either for the line or for extracurricular activities on quote-unquote patriotism, and parents opposed a strange initiative of the school leadership. And as you can see here, the Russians are back to trying to indoctrinate children yet again, and we see this attempt here of trying to introduce these first graders into these military uniforms, which is absolutely crazy. These are very young children, and they shouldn't be exposed to anything military related at that age yet. And basically, the Russians are trying to resort back to indoctrinating these kids from a very young age to want to join the very corrupt and very incompetent Russian military because they're having a problem right now having to conscript so many people. So this, to me, indicates that Russia is going back to its old ways with the children, which is not a good thing. But, you know, that's not unexpected for Russia. And moving on to our next post here, we have one from Flash News Ukraine. It says, in the Bakhmut direction, 6 pilots of the 18th Separate Army Aviation Brigade, named after the Sikorsky, died yesterday. And that is very unfortunate news. It says 2 Mi-8 helicopters crashed under unknown circumstances, and DBR is investigating. And the names had not yet been released for security reasons, the spokesman of the brigade said. And they said farewell to the heroes will take place on September 1st in Poltava. And this is very unfortunate news. Right now, it's not a good time to be losing pilots, and I'm not sure exactly why these pilots were all in these helicopters. Seems like a really bad idea to lump them all in this helicopter. Not sure what happened with this, but I'll be curious to see what the investigation turns up, and just unfortunate and also very bad timing as well, and condolences indeed. And moving on to our next post here, we have one from Flash News Ukraine yet again. And we're seeing, according to this post, that Zelensky is preparing for negotiations and meetings scheduled for September in relation to potentially joining the European Union. And I'm not sure if this is actually going to happen the way Zelensky thinks it's going to happen, but his goal at the moment is to try to get into the EU. And I guess that's an alternative to joining NATO, perhaps. It's kind of hard to tell at the moment. But can't fault Ukraine for trying to join any alliance they can to try to get more monetary support and also maybe, hopefully, indirectly get some kind of indirect security guarantee of some sort. So good news indeed. And moving on to our next one here, we have one from Nexta yet again. And it says, a bill to equate corruption during martial law with state treason has been submitted to Parliament. And we heard about this a few days ago as well. Zelensky wanted to turn corruption into basically treason. I personally think that's a sensible thing to do because right now corruption is basically treason because it's so devastating to the civilian population inside of Ukraine that it might as well be turning against your own country. So it seems reasonable to me, and it looks like Zelensky is putting the ball into motion to get this thing passed. So it'll probably be passing really soon. And moving on to our next post, second from last, we have one from the ISW. And it says the Russian Ministry of Defense may be reverting to the more limited coverage of the war in Ukraine while attempting to censor complaints along the front line and reports of Ukrainian advances. And we actually predicted this a long time ago as well. Not trying to brag or anything, but we did say that the Russians were going to try to revert to basically trying to hide everything from their own people instead of addressing it and putting their own propaganda spin on it. They're simply not going to report on it whatsoever. And that's why we're seeing things like YouTube and other platforms trying to be taken down inside of Russia, because that's not basically the only way Russia can control the people and what they see is by taking the whole platform down. And we're seeing here that the ISW seems to think that is definitely the case. So we got some official analyst confirmation of our prediction a few weeks back. And once again, good to see. And moving on to our last post of the day, we have one from Nexta. This is not shocking news whatsoever. The Interstate Aviation Committee, or IAC, said it is not investigating the crash of Yevgeny Prigozhin's business jet, and it did not comment on the incident. And are we shocked by that? No, we're not. The IAC is basically Russia's arm of an investigative unit for aircraft crashes, and they're saying now that they're not investigating the crash, and no comment. I wonder why that is. I'll let y'all take an educated guess at that. But anyways, moving on, we are actually fresh out of news, actually. So with that being said, I hope you found this video informative. If you would, please press the like button and subscribe as well so you can stay up to date on the news. Also, go peep our Twitter page. Our Twitter handle is @It'sTheEnforcer. We also have a Patreon page. Our link is in the description below, and you can go over there and support us as well, and that gives a big help to helping us do these videos. So once again, we'll see you all tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern on our Nightly War stream. Thank you all so much for watching, and bye-bye for now.